Hey all, Jacksonation here. Today we have a very unique video for you guys. So, as I've been, looking at Akora, just what's on YouTube right now and what I've seen in the community on the Discord, there's a need for some instructional content on Tabletop Simulator, alright? As of now, there's not any clear, in-game, there's some instructions, there's some, things, but I think a video guide would be very useful for new players getting into Akora. I've also noticed that some content on there, so when you search up Akora, the first result that pops up, at least for me, is my own video where I teach how to play the Akora TCG. And even that video, as much traction as that video has gotten by new players, it is using rulings from Season 3, the competitive Season 3, where you could relic up on the first turn and play more than one eternity of the same eternity at the same time. And those rules have been changed and are no longer the case. And so that's actually outdated. So I need to re-upload that, make it legible for new players getting into the 4th competitive season. So that is in the works as well, but for now we're going to be doing this Tabletop Simulator walkthrough. So, I brought you guys here to the Akora homepage here because we need to access Akora Play, which you can do so right here. Get to Akora's competitive website, where you'll be able to go over to the Decks tab. Now, there's a few decks on here. Akora has their official lists, down here somewhere, yeah. Their official theme deck lists, as well as their pre-release event lists, all sorts of that fun stuff. But what I have here, I have a lot of these are my lists. Not too many people make their lists public. Again, I'm all for transparency. So here we are. So the deck builder is pretty straightforward, and here's just a little look. It'll show you a complete deck. It'll show you all your ratios you're playing for each card. Show you how many of each type, your flashes, your relic shards, your armaments, battle zones, eternities, and your side deck and so forth. Now, I'm not going to go into all of the deck building, although I can show you just a little bit of it, right? When you're building a new deck, it's simply a matter of picking, you can search up individual card names. You have your, totals over here, and you'll be able to see individual cards, so, as well as the preview, where you'll be able to see even more of that. You can see your metrics, and then the settings, where you'll be able to name the deck. You'll be able to choose if it's aggro, mid-range, combo, control, or multiple, which format it is for. And then you can choose a corresponding image to go along with it. And then if it's private or public. Just stuff like that is what this deck builder can do. Very useful. You can search by attribute, by type, by set. All sorts of fun stuff. Card type, all that. Even words on just text on the card. Very, very useful tool. But what I'm here to show you is how you transfer your list once you have it, either public or private. Once it is done, meets legal requirements, how do we transfer it to Tabletop Simulator? Well, you're going to hit these 3 buttons right up here. Click that there, and you're going to copy your TTS code. It'll be copied to our clipboard. And now I am going to do some fancy editing, and I will meet you guys in Tabletop Simulator. Alrighty, we are back. We're now in Tabletop Simulator. Now, I'm going to have a link in the description. So Akora on Tabletop Simulator is actually a mod, and there is one mod to get the cards, and there is 2 workshops that you will need. I will link it in the description, and it'll basically be how you will be deck building, importing your cards, and also participating in tournaments. Alright, so we're going to go over to create here. For now, we're just going to do single player. And then we are going to be going over to our Akora TCG official workshop. That's an older version over there. and then we have the tournament room. So these are going to be the two workshops that you'll be importing over here, okay? Now, let's go over to the workshop. We're going to load it in. It might just take just a little moment, but it's going to be generating all the funky stuff that is in Akora Play. So, here we are. All right, so this is just a little thing here. Now, I'm just going to show off. Over here, we have little bags, and these little bags are going to contain every card for their specific set. Over here, we have Grodhelm, Warped Crusaders, Aphelium Unleashed, and Spellbound Wings over here. So if we take a look, we're going to left-click, and we're going to drag out all the cards here. And we can right-click, and we'll be able to do search, and we can look through and see every single multi-attribute card here. Just a little example of how this is going to work here. Okay. We also have mats over here, different things. So these are kind of what your typical tournament setting is going to look like. So you enter a tournament, you're going to be going over here. You can drag over a mat out of one of these. Here's a mat. And then I'm going to be using the rotation tool. Going to be able to rotate, and I have it set to 90 degree. Oh, was it already the right orientation? Okay, there we go. So if you go up here, you can see hit your rotation degrees, and so whenever you rotate an object, it's going to be that many degrees. So that's good. So say you generate your deck at a certain orientation, it's going to be like that. So now that we have our mat here, we're going to right-click again, and we're going to hit toggles, and we're going to go to lock. So that's going to freeze, stop it. So we don't want, when we're dragging card away from our deck, we don't want to pick up our entire mat. Now, same thing for our calculator. Now, the thing with the calculator is we can also increase the size. So if you want a bigger calculator, you don't want to be messing up when you're punching in numbers, you can make the bigger, and you can then lock it in place. And so now we can't move it, and so when we're plugging in at our alchemy essence during an event, we're not dropping the calculator, we're not moving things. It's just a lot simpler that way. But you want to know how to import your deck. Well, let me bring you right over here. So we're going to turn this thing around here. So this is the thing here. So we'll go over here to our insert Akora TTS code. We're going to do our Control V. And now we got the code for my Magna Kage deck. Import deck. And it is going to generate every single card in my Magna Kage deck. Alright, see, generation complete. And then if we go through and we search through this here, we'll see that every single card in my deck is generated in a random order. Very neat. So, now what are we going to do? Well, if we hold our left click, we're going to drag over both these. See how they're both highlighted yellow? Release. Right click. And now we can go to Save Object. Saved Object. And then we're going to call this Akora Magna Kage Alchemy Deck. Oop, almost misspelled that. Hold on. I can spell Alchemy Deck. There we are. Don't want any spelling errors. Hit save. And now both of those are saved. So they're going to be in a little awkward orientation. So they're a bit smaller than the zones on our board here. And that's just fine. So now what are we going to do? We're going to go over to Objects. We're going to hit Saved Objects. And now, let's see. That is not it. That is not it. Ignore me. Ignore me. Ignore me. Haha. Yeah, no, that's not what we want. That's not what we want. Let me try this again one more time here. Go over. Hit Save Object. Akora Magna Kage Alchemy Deck. Hit save. And now if we go to Object, Save Objects, there we go. Now we have our deck. Alright, so now it has generated, and we have our 9-card Akora deck, and our 41 card alchemy deck. So what are we going to do? We need to get these in the right zone. So we're going to, we're going to rotate them so that they are the correct orientation. There we are. Hold it to move it. We're going to drag it over to our deck zone. And then we can go over to our scale and we can increase the size. So we're going to make that go up just a little bit. And now we have a manageable size for our deck. Same thing, going to be rotating, dragging over to our zone, and increasing our size. So if I get over here, sometimes it's just a little bit, but we can also hit the plus on our keyboard. Instead, if it's not over here, we can just hit the plus button on your keyboard and get the same effect. So now both of our decks are going to be relative size. I'm actually going to make that one a little bit smaller, fit in. Minus does the same thing, right? So, all right. So we're starting an Akora game. We're in our tournament. Now what? Now what are we doing? Well, first off, we start our game with a relic shard. So I'm going to take my relic shard out of my deck. I'm going to drag it onto the board. It's face down. So we're going to flip it. And we're going to drag it into our relic zone there. Then we need a stage 1 Akora. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to go and I'm going to grab a Kage. Put it in our Akora zone and flip. There we go. So now we are just about ready. Our opponent is going to be on the other side of the table. So next, what are we going to do? We are going to be shuffling. So hit the shuffle button a couple of times. Shuffle, shuffle. And then when we are all ready, you're going to take some dice. So that's a coin. That's a coin. That's not a dice. We're going to be grabbing some dice. We got 2 dice here. And before we draw our hand, we're going to determine who goes first and second, right? We ideally don't want to decide this after we see our hands, because then we know which one we're going to be better at. It's only fair if we do this before we draw our hands. So we're going to do earlier. We're going to drag until they're both highlighted in yellow. We're going to do right click, and we're going to hold roll. Or click roll. Yeah, keep clicking roll. Yeah, click. There we go. And it's going to bounce, and there, we got an 8. Okay. So then our opponent's going to do the same thing. They're going to roll, and they hit a 10. Okay, so my opponent gets to choose. But, anywho, we're going to be getting our starting hand. So what we're going to do, we're going to click draw 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not a bad starting hand. Not a bad starting hand. So again, we can just use our scroll wheel and W, A, S, and D to move. We're getting in here and we can actually read our cards. This is our hand. Our opponent cannot see this. Very neat. So we want to use Forbidden Alchemy. We want to use a shard. If we want to use a card, we're going to drag it out of our hand and onto the board. Now, if we hold a card on top of it and we get it exactly right, it will stack. And then if we hold it and drag, if we click, we're going to just take 1 card. But if we hold and then drag, we're going to be picking up that whole stack. You feel me? You feel me? All right. So we're going to be taking this back to our hand here. And that's how we're moving to our hand here. We can select it down here, or we can move it from over here. Either or. See, I'm taking it over here, and it's moving accordingly. I started from this bottom hand. Now you're just getting an idea how this works. But yeah, otherwise it's just Akora as normal. And then you can be flipping around if you hold your right click button and move it around. You can change your orientation to look at your opponent's board, see what they're up to. But yeah, so that is the Akora Tabletop Simulator Guide. Hope you guys found that useful at all. Hope you guys have fun at your first events. And yeah, that'll be all for now. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day.